Hey everybody, it's Jason Blah here. Now that my two obligatory informative videos are done for the day, it's time to talk about current events in the online fitness community. And I just recently made a video about Erik Conover. And I actually made a pretty positive video about him because, again, I don't know anything about the guy. I don't even know what sort of channel he runs. I made that video based purely upon his video that he made with the Chris Hemsworth workout app that he's doing, right? I don't care what else the guy does. I'm not interested in what his past is. I'm not interested in what his genre is. I'm concerned with fitness, training, lifting, strength, those things. And I gave a pretty positive review of the video because the guy got results. He put in work and he got some decent results his first month in, and he's encouraging people to be fit. And he's doing basic compound exercises and eating a good diet. I'm not going to shit on that. Let's be honest here. I'm not. I think that's a positive thing. Now, I did say that the program wasn't the best in the world. That it could be improved upon. That there were issues with it, particularly for drug-free first-year lifters. Not saying you can't get results on it, though. But the point came up that people had asked me, they're like, Jason, why didn't you mention the fact that it's a bro split? Why didn't you specifically call that out as a bad thing? And I think that's a very valid question. And for those who are new to this, they don't know what a bro split means. A bro split means where you have a chest day once a week, you have a leg day once a week, you have a back day once a week, right? You split everything up into body parts and you only train each muscle group or movement pattern once a week. That's called a bro split. And that's a training style that came out of the very, very heavy steroid-using bodybuilding world that is intended to get, in theory, maximum results for guys using very copious amounts of anabolic substances. And I don't mean just a little bit. And the idea behind that sort of training is that you want to maximize as much training volume and fatigue as you possibly can in a muscle, oftentimes beyond what it can recover from in a single session. And then you let it recover for a week, and then, of course, you let the drugs go ahead and let you grow at that point. Because realistically, what do we know based upon the research? People who aren't on any anabolics, people who are in the normal testosterone, growth hormone range, things like that, who are producing their own hormones, those of us who are doing that, we can only grow for about 48 hours after you train a muscle. In other words, you do a bunch of curls or a bunch of chin-ups, your biceps are not going to grow beyond about 48 hours after you finish training them. And even the 48 hours can be a stretch. Like if you want to actually get the full 48 hours of growth, you're going to have to hammer that muscle pretty hard. It's, in most cases, it's closer to 30, 35 hours for most people in normal workloads. So realistically, you're not going to grow as fast as possible with that sort of training, and you're going to tend to oftentimes accumulate so much training volume that your growth window gets cut down because the recovery window gets extended into beyond the limits of your growth window. It's not ideal. But the point is you can still make gains doing that. Now, realistically speaking, any of us out here who understand physiology at all, any of us with a basic knowledge of physiology, training, programming, if someone came to us, a high-end client who had a lot of money and they were going to pay you based upon the amount of results they got, right, they were going to pay you, say, for the next 6 months, an X amount of money for every pound of muscle they gained on a DEXA scan, or for every pound of fat they lost. Right, they're going to pay you per unit of result they got. There is no way you would put them on that sort of program if they were drug-free, right? You wouldn't, because you would lose money. You as a coach would make less money because you got them less results, and that's a verifiable fact. We all know that. That can't even be disputed. So if your actual income was on the line, you wouldn't put somebody on that sort of program. Of course you wouldn't. You'd be a moron if you did. You would be unqualified to be a coach. You wouldn't be making as much money as you could make. You'd put them on something with a much higher frequency and more moderate volume, especially for a first-year lifter on not pinning any test or growth hormone or anything. Oh, God, no. But here's the thing. You need to look at the fact that at the very least, the program focused on the big five. And here's what I'm going to say regarding bro splits. The worst bro splits are the ones that have you just come in and do a bunch of isolation and fluff on each of those days. If on your chest day you come in and you put a really heavy focus on the bench press, you put a heavy focus on the bench press as your first exercise, and you do a fair amount of training volume with it, and then you do all the other chest stuff afterwards, you're still going to get some pretty reasonable chest, delt, tricep growth, all that stuff. Well, what happens if on your shoulder day you're doing the standing barbell press? Because he was doing the standing barbell press there, and that seems to be in the program. Only shoulder day you come and do the standing barbell press on the second day. Isn't your chest getting worked again? Yeah, it's the same muscles being worked. Standing barbell press versus bench press, there's an emphasis difference, but it's working the pecs, working the delts, working the triceps. They're going to get 2 growth windows every week, right? If you do it that way. Particularly if you're doing the standing barbell press or a standing push press, anything like that is your main shoulder exercise, you're going to mitigate some of the negative effects of splitting things up the way that you are. Same thing, they have a back day, but you start with heavy deadlifts and you've squatted on a different day. If you start the leg day with squats, aren't you getting some back work? Yeah. You're getting a full body workout out of the squats. It is going to transfer to a lot of other muscles, traps, lats, erectors, abs. All that's getting worked in addition to your lower body. So if on your leg day you focus heavily on the squats first, and then on the back day you start with the deadlift, aren't we getting 2 back and leg days? More or less, and not a complete emphasis, meaning the deadlift day maybe you aren't getting as much leg training. Not quite as much leg training as you are on the leg day with the squats, but you're getting some. And it might be enough to respark the muscle growth, respark the muscle protein synthesis from that earlier stimulation. You know, so if you're looking at it from that perspective, and then the standing barbell presses is working everything again, you are getting a little bit of back work. The whole shoulder girdle's being worked. You know, again, the shoulders are being worked on the chest day, they're being worked on the back day. So you're getting delt and trap and everything being worked like 3 days a week. Legs are getting twice, chest, triceps are getting twice a week. You know, back and biceps are getting, you know, again, depending upon how much squatting you're doing, how much standing pressing you're doing, you know, you are getting a little bit of extra frequency. Is it ideal? No, it's not ideal. But if you're putting a heavy emphasis on those 5 exercises as your early exercises on each of those days, you are getting some overlap and bleed over. So you're not getting the full benefits you would get as if you were squatting 3 days a week and benching 2 or 3 times a week and doing the standing press 2 or 3 times a week, right? Because that's what we want. I'd like to see you doing chin-ups 2 or 3 times a week at a moderate volume. You know, realistically, this is going to be a little more ideal, but there is some overlap. If enough volume is being put and progressive overload is being aggressively pushed on those big exercises on their own days, there's overlap between them. You're still hitting every muscle group at least twice a week, even if the exercise selection isn't absolutely perfect, meaning your quads are going to grow more from squats than they are the deadlifts. Your pecs are going to grow more from the bench press than they are from the overhead press. But again, let's go back over to the chest. It is getting worked if you're doing weighted chin-ups. There's some chest work, a little bit of upper chest. It is getting worked on the shoulder day if you're overhead pressing. So you're getting some overlap. The muscles that are most likely to lag the way it's got it set up is honestly your pecs and your quads. Those are probably going to get the least work. But a lot of the other muscles are actually going to do okay. They're going to do okay. They're going to do decent because there's enough overlap between the big exercises. So as long as volume and progression are sufficient on those big lifts, it's not the worst possible scenario. Like, you could still make pretty good muscle growth off of that. It's just not ideal programming because it's loosely based off of that whole concept of the bro split, which again comes out of the heavily enhanced bodybuilding world. It's just not the way you would have drug-free lifters train in a perfect environment. But it is workable. It's workable as long as those big exercises are done and the focus is put on them because of the overlap between the muscle groups. You know, I mean, like for me, my current novice program, I have you do the bench and the overhead press every workout 3 days a week, right? Because that's what we really want. If you really want to thicken up a noob's upper body, they really need to be doing that. But it's not necessary to get good gains. It's just the sort of stuff like that is necessary when you're trying to maximize progress. And a lot of noobs aren't trying to maximize progress, particularly if they're doing large amounts of conditioning work in GPP. Also, they're most likely possibly going to be in somewhat of a fat loss or recomposition phase at that point anyways. So they're probably not going to maximize muscle growth. And then you've got to remember, if you have someone doing enough general physical preparedness on all those other days or every day, they're probably getting at least some growth stimulus in there to bridge the gap between throwing them on a bro split like that. Now, some people would say, well, why did they throw a bro split in there? Because they've been popularized, because when you read every magazine, that's what everyone thinks you're supposed to do because of all the bodybuilding magazines. And so they went with something that was trendy that will still get results, but loosely based upon the trendy bro split idea. even though it's not ideal programming and a good coach probably wouldn't put you on that, at least it doesn't deviate from what's considered to be the socially acceptable way to train because of the bodybuilding magazines. It's become a big part of bro culture in the gym, while trying to make it as effective as they can get away with. And I think a lot of the reason guys like him are still going to get some results on it, pretty good results, is going to be the overlap. And then all that conditioning and general physical preparedness work is still going to give you a little bit of hypertrophic response, which will help bridge the gap a little bit. It's not necessarily ideal, but people are still going to get good results on it if they put in enough work. And I think that's basically what happened there. So is it perfect? No. Does it have problems? Yes. Can someone still get pretty good results doing it if they put in enough work? Yeah, of course they can. Of course they can. So take it for what it is. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.